who come short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best in the end has the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, he does so daring greatly. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, 80 years is a long time, and my mother-in-law is in her 80s. My mother-in-law was in the hospital in Everett in March of 2015, and she was diagnosed with a staph infection in her knee, which led to subsequent surgeries, and she then, being under anesthesia for so long, she had some dementia that had really become way more apparent at this point in time. And so we had to make a decision. She was living on her own. Her husband had passed 10 years prior. So we weren't really sure what to do next. So we asked her what she wanted. Do you want to move to a home near your friends in Seattle? Or do you want to move in with us? She decided she wanted to move in with us. We gave her the choice because we both realized that if we were in her position with my husband has no other siblings, with no other family, that I wanted her to be able to choose. Wasn't quite sure what I was getting myself into in the beginning, but I was riding high for the first few months. Well, of course, like the first 8 weeks, she was still in a sniff getting her IV antibiotics. So at first I was like, yeah, I'm doing this good thing. Look at how great I am. I'm awesome. I'm getting all these points, wife points, daughter-in-law points. I'm teaching my children how to treat their elders. I was so excited. And then reality started to set in. I remembered that I didn't really like my mother-in-law. And even her own husband called her a contrarian. Because you would tell her, hey, I'm going to Seattle to go do something, and she would say, oh, traffic, and you'll never find parking. Everything was always negative. My favorite was when she would speak about me as I'm in the room to my husband and say things like, Stephen, does Koreens like lamb? And I'd look at her and say, yes, Koreens likes lamb. And as I noticed, she also was very good at trying to parent my own children while I was in the room, which is, I'm sure, if anyone has ever had that happen to them, probably their favorite thing in the whole wide world. So I was starting to get very negative. And as the negativity built, so did the resentment. I resented her being around. I resented it all. And my answers started to come out of my mouth very quick and very curt and rude. And I didn't like who I was turning into. But I didn't know what to do because I was in this ugly, frustrated position. And I sat in that ugly, frustrated position for a good period of time. I was there. I would say things. My husband and I would duke it out upstairs. It would come back down to, I can't believe we did this. But the whole time I kept saying, I don't regret what we did. I'm just not sure how to deal with this. I stayed with that because I didn't know how to deal with it. And then I started thinking, I put myself in her shoes. And like any muscle that you have to create, you can't do one bicep curl and get a good strong bicep. You have to practice it over and over again. So when I would see her coming down the hallway with her cane like this, walking like Jason, chasing you in the forest. I wouldn't say what I used to say, which was, "What do you need?" I'd say, "Are you okay? Did you have lunch yet?" I'd remember that I want to talk to myself. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to, anything I say to her as if I was talking to myself. Because I'm also teaching my kids. And that frustration taught them a whole other lesson that I really hope they never repeat. But the more that I put myself in her shoes, the more that I realized that this is it. And do I want her last however many years she lives? God forbid it's like 20, but you never know. Greeks live a long time. I wanted her last few years, whatever it turns out to be not with the ugliness that I felt every time I spoke to her. So, I love what Teddy Roosevelt has written, but I adapted it for my situation. It's not my inner critic who counts, not the person who points out how I have stumbled and failed, or tells me how I could have done it better. The credit belongs to me for not just getting in the arena, but staying in the arena to build the resiliency I strived for every day. My face that was once marred with guilt and shame now has a sense of strength. I have come short many times. And although I feel I have failed her, I have done so daring greatly. I will not spend my time listening to that inner critic, the cold inner critic, but observing the deeds that I complete every day to enhance both her life and mine. Fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you very much, Corrine. And if everyone could spend a moment to write down your thoughts on, should be, most everybody have a little sheet.